Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining me here on this Monday evening. Hope everybody enjoyed the weekend out there. A little bit warmer temps here in the Northeast, so we will definitely take all of that. Of course, I am, as you can tell, in another random hotel room here in central New Hampshire. For another little bit of a work trip, but wanted to come to you guys tonight. A lot of things to talk about. A lot of things to talk about with the Maine Mariners, a few things to talk about with the Boston Bruins, of course, Don Sweeney talking yesterday, and a few other news and notes from around the NHL. Going back to the weekend, though, 2-1 weekend for the Maine Mariners down there in Norfolk. What did we think? What did we all think, guys? Picked up 2 points in the standings there on Worcester as Worcester goes 1-2. I think they were in South Carolina. But what did we think? It was a weekend that we saw a little bit of everything, right? A couple of shutouts in there, some really good goaltending. I'd say kind of on both sides, some fights. We saw shorthanded goals. We saw some great penalty killing. I'd say overall a very exciting weekend and a very good answer coming off of that Rapid City trip where, the boys couldn't muster out any points. So going back to Friday night, of course, game where Maine wins 2-0, shutting out Norfolk. Shots on goal on this one. Norfolk really getting the better of the play here, 33-17. So just kind of odd how Maine's able to pull that out, 2-0 shutout. But shots on goal 11-6 in that first period for Norfolk, 13-4 for Norfolk in the second, and 9-7 Norfolk in the third. Power plays here, guys. Maine was over 2. Norfolk 0 for 3. Goal scorers here. Vidmar with his third of the season gets it going in the first, assisted by Hemstrom, and Kalmakoff in the second period getting his 15th of the season to make it 2-0. Bischel in net getting a much needed shutout. This guy has been struggling a little bit lately, so great to see him. He looked on his game all night, and as Stead with the giving up the 2 goals, 15 saves on 17 shots there for Norfolk. Maine taking that one 2-0. Turning to Saturday night. A little bit of a different story here. Maine again getting outshot, but losing this one 4-0. A little bit like how Norfolk responded when they came up here, where Maine, I think, shut them out that Friday, and then Norfolk came right back and put it to the boys the next night. The 4-0 win here for Norfolk. Shots on goal 35-24 in favor of Norfolk. That first period was 12-4. Norfolk really taking it to the boys there in that first period. 13-6 in the second, and 14-10 Maine there in the third as they did try to battle back. Power play here. Maine was 0 for 2. Norfolk 1 for 2. Of course, no goal scores for the Mariners in this one. Makes it a little bit easy, but of note, Biddeford's Brady Florent gets his 22nd of the season in that second period. And that puts him, 22 goals for him on the year. Bischel back in net, 31 saves on 35 shots. Instead, once again, in that for Norfolk, getting the shutout, 24 saves on 24 shots there. And then we come to the Sunday matinee, the rubber match for the boys. Clearly, after that Saturday win, Worcester, I think they won on Saturday. So you're right back to 15 points. You're feeling like, man, we've really got to get something out of this weekend if we want to keep any sort of playoff, hopes alive here. And a great response by the Mariners on that Sunday afternoon. Again, getting outshot. I mean, Norfolk really outshot this team all weekend. So when you look at just the shots on goals, you think, man, there's no way Maine's going to pull anything out of this. But they end up winning this one 3-2. Shots on goals 34-17. 10-7 for Norfolk in the first, 13-4 in that second period where Norfolk really controlled play. And in that third period, 11-6 as they did try to battle back, did get a couple goals there in the third period to make it interesting. Like a power play, Maine was 1 for 2, and Norfolk 0 for 4 in this one. DeVoe getting the first goal to get the game started at the 3:44 mark, his 11th of the season. Kalmakoff and Thompson with the helpers. That was the power play goal. Sebastian Wittmar with goal number 4 later in that first period, not long after that first period. Let's see, 344 for the first, for the 456 for Vidmar's goal, and that actually chased Joseph from the game, who had just recently signed. Clearly not seeing the puck well for Joseph, and Steed goes back in for the Admirals. You have to go now to the third period after McDougall scores for Norfolk in that third period to make it 2-1. Vidmar with a shorthanded goal, his fifth of the season. Just had a heck of a weekend. 3 goals for him to make it 3-1. Norfolk again makes it interesting with I think it's a Svensson or Svensson, I think is how you pronounce that, with his 21st of the season at the 17:42 mark. But Maine does hold on, winning this one 3-2. Brad Arvanitis back in that. What a pleasant sight that was to see Brad back between the pipes. 32 saves on 34 shots. He looked like he was dialed in. I think that's his first start, I want to say, since like late December. So great to see him in there. Of course, Steve back in that 13 saves on 14 shots after Joseph gave up the 2 goals there early in the first period. So, where does that leave us after the weekend? 19, 28, and 3, 41 points, still sitting sixth in that North Division. As we mentioned, Worcester did go 1-2 on the weekend, so you do pick up 2 points, and are still down, though, 13 points out of fourth place, chasing the Railers, who have 54 points right now on the season. Still 3 games in hand. We've talked about this a lot. And you have Reading, of course, sitting in between you with 50 points. And of course, Maine has them coming up next on the schedule. And you actually play Reading 8 more times before the season is over. So clearly an opportunity to at least chase Reading down, and all those points can add up. We'll see. No, we'll see what happens, right? But as far as Maine is concerned, you need to look at those Reading games like playoff games. You have to treat them like playoff games. You have to prepare like they're playoff games, because they essentially are at this point if you're the Mariners. Looking at your key players from the weekend, of course, Sebastian Vidmar with 3 goals over the 3 games. He's actually now up to 15 points on the season, 5, 10, and 15 lines. So after kind of a slow start from a production perspective, he's really picked it up. One of the leaders on this team, one of the elder statesmen on this team. So great to see him getting it going. Hemstrom with 2 assists on the weekend. Kalmakov with the goal, and of course DeVoe with a goal as well. Goaltending, of course, Bischel was 1-for-1, had 64 saves on 68 shots. And of course, RV playing on that Sunday matinee, 1-0, 32 saves on 34 shots. Again, great to see him back in net. Right now, just looking at the season, some of the key stats, of course, goals scored for the team has been hard to come by. 123 goals now on the season. They've given up 175, so there's still a minus 52. Not a great stat, not a great metric, not a whole lot you can do to catch up with that right now. You can't really worry about it, but you got, was it 22 more games to go? Can you get that to a minus 35? I think that could be nice, and that could clearly help you win some games. Of course, looking at specialty teams here on the weekend, Maine was 1-for-6 in the power play and killed 8 out of 9 over the weekend. So great to see that there. Overall, right now, guys, the Maine power play is at 18.4%. And their PK right around that 82% mark, 81.8%. So listen, improvements on the special teams. As much as we can criticize the team and say, hey, listen, they give up a lot of, odd man rushes, and they defensively struggle at times. They struggle to score. A lot of things we can pick on, but the specialty teams have been improving pretty organically throughout the season. I think it's a good sign. So good to see that there. Team leaders right now, we'll run through this real quick. Brooklyn Kalmakov leads the team, 44 games played, 15 goals, 22 assists for 37 points. Lyndon McCallum, 50 total games, 17 goals, 11 assists for 28 points. Defenseman Justin Bean, 50 games played for him, 6, 18, and 24 to line. Jacob Hudson, 44 games, 7 goals, 16 assists for 23 points. And Willem DeVoe, 45 games, 11 goals now, 7 assists for 18 points. Those are your team leaders. A couple of transactions real quick to talk about. Matt Allen, forward, was released just recently here, most likely heading back to the SPHL, where he came from. Of course, Nolan Meyer being reassigned back from Providence back down to Maine. not a surprise here at all. We certainly knew this was part of the DPH going up to Boston for a second. Meyer getting that opportunity. So they create the space by releasing Allen, getting Meyer back to the group. So we will see. I'm sure we'll see him in net sometime next weekend. Um, Upcoming schedule, and actually we do have a Wednesday game this week. So you do head out to Reading. The boys go from Norfolk up to Reading, Pennsylvania for a Wednesday night, 2:26. It's a 7 p.m. drop there. Friday, they are back in Reading for 7 p.m. and Saturday, 7 p.m. as well. So all evening starts there. And then they travel to Wheeling, West Virginia for just I believe, the third game of the year against the Wheeling, what are they, the Nailers? Wheeling Nailers, I think. I should probably know that. I think it's the Wheeling Nailers. 4:10 matinee there. And that's the last time you play Wheeling this year. They've been a really good team this year. Um, but yeah, only three matchups against them for the Pittsburgh Penguins ECHL affiliate. That will be Sunday afternoon. Then they will head home finally to get some home games the following weekend. So it'll be great to see the boys back in town, back in action at the Cross after these next four. But looking at your matchup against Reading right now, you are 4-0 against them on the year, outscoring them in those four games 14-7. Three of those games were at home, one on the road. And of course, all these games were back in November, so it has been a while, and you do play them 8 more times before the year's out. So great opportunity to, bank some points against a team you've been fairly successful against. Granted, it's been a couple months. Both teams look drastically different than they did in November, uh, but you have an opportunity here. You certainly have an opportunity. All right. Taking a quick look at the Royals right now, they are 21, 22, 7 and 1 with 50 points, fifth in the North. Over their last 10, they are 4, 3 and 3, and they have won 3 in a row. Team stats for them, they have scored 140 goals on the year, again, against 123 for Maine. Power play 16.7%, and their PK 76.5, so Maine has a slight advantage there, coming in at that 18.4 for their power play and 81.8 for the PK for Maine. So should be interesting to see how they match up again on the ice. Some of their top players, Matt Miller, forward, 51 games played, 10 goals, 19 assists for 29 points. Defenseman Sam Sedley, 43 games, 4 goals, 24 assists for 28 points. Forward Matt Brown, 35 games played for him, 13 goals, 12 assists for 25 points. And forward Tyler Gratton, 50 games, 15 goals. I believe he leads the team, 8 assists for 23 points. In net, had some change here with Keith Petroselli was recalled to the AHL Lehigh Valley back early February. So it has been Vinny Papura in net. I think he started kind of the last 3 or 4 games for the team, 8, 4 and 2, a 2.65 goals against average, and a 9.15 save percentage for him. Gage Alexander has been backing him up. He is 3 and 1 so far in the year, a 2.76 goals against and a 9.18 save percentage. So fairly strong in net, even with losing their top guy. So yeah, should be fun. 3-game set down there in Reading. You just hope that the boys can build off the success from Norfolk, a very tough Norfolk team that hasn't treated Maine very well this year, and you just went and took 2 out of 3. So good on the boys. Can we build off this? This is what we've been hoping for. This is what we've been praying for. Is okay, get a couple of wins, win a 2 out of 3, win a weekend, and build on it. What I like about this week, guys, is that you don't have to wait till Friday. Okay, you're coming off some good momentum on Sunday. You just wait a couple days. You got that Wednesday game. Let's carry that in to the weekend. You're down by 13 points, in terms of a playoff spot. Let's see what they can do. Worcester starting to struggle a little bit. So again, we'll see how it all plays out. All right, we're going to turn our attentions now to the Boston Bruins. A little bit of news, of course, with the club coming back in action there Saturday night against the Anaheim Ducks. Of course, their record right now 27, 24, and 7, 61 points, 6th in the Atlantic. I think they're 10th overall in the East. And still, yes, just 1 point out of a wild card after taking that 1 point in the overtime loss to the Anaheim Ducks there 3-2 on Saturday night. You do play tomorrow night against Toronto. The Maple Leafs come to town, 7 p.m. puck drop at the TD Garden. Anybody pending that game would love to hear from you. Love the atmosphere in the Garden, even when the team is kind of where they are right now, kind of struggling. But looking at that game on Saturday, and this really speaks to a lot of the season so far, and a player that I have kind of picked on a little bit. I do like this player, but it's hard to watch games and not notice kind of the negative plays. But Mason Lohrei, defenseman Mason Lohrei, is absolutely killing you right now if you're the Boston Bruins. One of those, I think it was, I can't remember now if it was the first or second goal, but he goes in for a body check there in the neutral zone, leaving his D man completely outnumbered, leads to a pretty easy goal for the Ducks. He's just right now in that space where he's struggling to understand time and place, right? Time and place for certain plays or certain elements of his game. When to take that body check or make that play, when to pinch up or when to fall back, struggling to make the simple play. It's almost like he's trying to do too much when really what he has to do is just simplify his game. And again, learning time and place. Context of the game when you make these decisions. He's had too many of these this year. Um, you love his upside, and I do. I love his puck skills. Listen, he did make a play at the blue line where he broke up a play and stole a puck earlier in that game. It's like, oh, that's great to see. He definitely has good stick skills, good puck skills, but these growing pains are really pressing the team, especially with your two top D men out right now, with McAvoy and Lindholm out. Listen, we know that clearly this guy really needed more time in the A, needed more time down in Providence, and we know that the injuries and the overall depth in the organization at this position has kind of led to this. They've kind of pressed him into more time, more spots, more on the power play, things like that. That he's taken on more than he's probably ready for right now. So, give him credit. He's working hard. We know he's trying. And listen, I think if we stick with it, he sticks with it 2 or 3 years. Listen, he may be one of your best defensemen. I'm certainly not ready to give up on him. But I think in a normal year where McAvoy and Lindholm are healthy, he's probably your sixth or seventh defenseman, maybe a healthy scratch, maybe down in Providence a little bit, getting some of that seasoning that he still desperately needs. He's just right now, he's getting the seasoning here in Boston. These are mistakes he should be making in Providence. Now, listen, as a Mariners fan, I'd love to see him down here in Portland. All right, bring him down, help us get that playoff spot. That'd be awesome. Definitely fantasy land over here. That's not going to happen. But he's, yeah, been on the struggle bus lately for sure for him. Hopefully he has a short memory, just keeps working. I have a lot of faith in his overall talent, and I just think as he gets his seasoning and becomes more experienced, fewer of these mistakes are going to happen. Hopefully, right? Fingers crossed. Staying on the defensive side though for the team, just poor defensive communication, and we've seen this so much this year. And this is such a new thing, over the last 10 years for the Boston Bruins. But you look at that overtime goal that Carlson gets, and it's complete defensive miscommunication. What do you have? You have two Bruins skaters skating to the same spot, skating to the same person, and just completely exposing Swayman, exposing the rest of that ice. How many times have we seen that this year? Like, how many times? I mean, this has been an alarming amount this season of these miscommunications. And it's not just the D-men. We're not just talking about the defensive pairings here. We're talking about the complete team, the whole lineup, the whole five, or the whole four, or in this case, three on the ice during the overtime. Just not communicating. Again, people trying to maybe do too much, not thinking it through, mental lapses, but too many of them. You can live with the one or two here and there, but too many mental lapses. And it's absolutely just killing you. And it took you away from that extra point on Saturday night. Listen, it does worry me that maybe we don't have a strong voice out there, quarterbacking this stuff. For years we were spoiled with Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, go back to Chara, even go back to, some of those, big time blue liners like Sean Thornton, guys that were, communicative and were able to quarterback more of this stuff. Do we really have that right now? Of course, McAvoy's out, Lindholm is out. are they strong enough voices when they're out there? I mean, McAvoy played a lot this year. A lot of these mistakes happened while he was there. Um, I don't know, but it absolutely needs to be addressed, going into next season. Uh, and there's a whole host of other things we can talk about for next season. Um, are we looking at a new coaching staff? Are we looking at a new head coach? What's the actual team going to look like? We'll get into that here in just a moment. Um, Last point on the game from Saturday night is that game tying goal late in the third period. The refs eventually, yes, they got it right. But listen, man, if that's goalie interference, I guess I've probably committed some goalie interference plays from my living room this season. Definitely glad they got it right. But how many of these have we seen league wide this season? I feel like it's such a flip of the coin, night in and night out in the league. You know, I listen, I know you can challenge the call. Um, and try to get it right. And I know these can be challenging calls for the officials, and there's a lot of nuance to it. It's a fast-paced game. I don't know if there's an easy way to fix this, but I'm just sitting there looking at that play. I'm like, I'm so glad they got it right, and at least the Boston Bruins earned a point. But man, if that's called a no goal for goal interference, I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know what we're doing here. I know it gets talked about a lot nationally. Yeah, how do you fix it? Do you guys have any ideas out there? Leave those comments down below. I know some have talked about, hey, just you increase the blue paint there for the goalie, increase his space, and hey, if your skate is any place close to that or in that blue paint, it's a no goal. There's other ideas out there, but what are your thoughts? What are your ideas on that? So of course we got Toronto coming into town tomorrow night. Oof, we'll see if they can muster something up here. I mean, without Hampus, without McAvoy, what do they have left against this high-powered offense in Toronto? So moving on, of course, Don Sweeney took to the microphone yesterday. They had a number of things to talk about. Talked for about 15 or so minutes to the media. A couple of the big takeaways here, and of course, you guys have probably seen that interview already. But of course, he mentions Hampus likely done for the season. Continuing to try to improve, on that injury, try to heal that properly. Sorry about that. Um, Having a couple of setbacks just as he's been out there skating and trying to get out there, just no reason to risk it. I don't mind the move there, especially the way the season's gone. Don't press him. Don't force it. Try to get him healthy for next season at this point. And it does beg a curious question. Now you can put him on long-term IR. That opens up that salary cap. And I think it was asked by somebody there in the media room, would they utilize that money, in a trade, before the deadline? And Sweeney just kind of talked around it a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, there'll be potentially an opportunity to have some extra money to work with if they choose to do so. Of course, going to Charlie McAvoy improving, so great news there, but no timeline. And we're looking at weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We'll have to wait and see. Listen, if you lose, 4 out of the next 5 games, maybe he's done for the year too. Not sure, not sure. I think the big takeaway here is talking about the trade deadline, where he's going to have a more cautious approach this season. Not going to be overly aggressive. You talked about, yep, we're going to answer calls and take calls and look at all options, but a more cautious approach, which I agree with. I think that's the right move this year for the team. Don't go all in. This team has so many holes, so many issues. You're not going to fix them all with the assets that you have. Sorry about that again, guys. So again, we had a video on this a week or so ago talking about what the Bruins should do at the deadline. I kind of took the approach of, kind of a small retool, kind of take some players, move some contracts here or there, maybe pick up a contract here or there, somebody that can help you next season, grab some more assets. So it's going to be curious. They've got a lot of different options. I think you're going to see them sell off some players, open up some money, get some assets. And listen, I think it's the right move. I know it sucks, right? And we may not make the playoffs because of it, or if we do, we won't be a very strong team. But listen, we all know there's no secret. This team's so far from the Stanley Cup right now. I don't really think it matters. And I do think you really need to start thinking about the 25-26 season. It can be a quick retool. This doesn't have to be a 5 or 10 year process. This can be quick. I mean, you can be right back in the playoffs, right back hunting a Stanley Cup next season if you play your cards right now. I really do believe that. And then, of course, there's Brad Marchand. And Sweeney talks about Brad's ultimate goal is for Brad to be a Bruin for life. I think that's Brad's goal as well. Very interesting. Sweeney did mention the path will be clear in about 2 weeks' time. So I don't know if there's some sort of a deadline for them to get an extension done, or if he was just probably just talking about the trade deadline. Um, I guess if they don't trade him in the next couple of weeks, it's a good indication that he'll be back and they'll re-sign him. But um, the door's more open than I expected it to be, though. He didn't completely close the door on trading him. I mean, saying the ultimate goal is for him to be here for life, but I'm going to be wildly curious to see what happens here. I really am. I don't want to see them trade Brad. I love him. Want him here. He's our captain. He should be a Bruin for life. You sweeten a deal with a first round pick and a third round pick, or a first and a second, or it might be hard to pass up. You get a good young talented player in return. Um, Going to be wildly curious. I'm still going to put my money on he sticks around. He doesn't get traded. Um, but we will see what happens. So we're going to close the book on the Bruins. We're going to move into some other NHL news as we get into this week here. Of course, Alex Ovechkin had a hat trick last night against the Edmonton Oilers. That puts him now at 29 goals, 17 assists, and 46 total points in 41 games. And now it's just, and most importantly, 13 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 goals. 25 games left for the Caps. So I do think he gets it this year. I do think he hits it. Their final regular season game is April 17th at Pittsburgh. Now, how perfect would that be? I know that fans of the Caps want to see this at home, but man, how perfect would this be if they're at PPG Place Arena on Sydney's home ice when he breaks that record? I think that would just be, you couldn't script it much better than that, in my opinion. Now, they do play in Boston on April 1st. So listen, if he's close to that, that could be a very, very hot ticket in Boston for that game. So that could be really curious to see it at the Garden. But good on Ovi, having a great year, just, kind of ageless. I mean, he's definitely looking older, but numbers are there and still playing well and still slapping a puck around, man. I love it. I love to see it. And of course, from the NHL Player Safety Department today, Anaheim's Trevor Zegras did have a hearing today, 3-game suspension on what was essentially a missed interference call on Detroit's Michael Rasmussen. Looks like a shoulder to the head type of play. Yeah, intentional. This was an accidental. I went back and watched the replay. Did not watch the game live. And yeah, he has 3 or 4 strides. Had a chance to change his direction. Had a chance to think it through, and he wanted to go in and make body contact. I don't necessarily know he was trying to hit his head, but when you go in and you're taking out some frustration on a play, these things are bound to happen. Now, Zegras is not a dirty player, but now he's got a little bit of a record, so he'll have to watch himself moving forward. But he will be out for 3 games. Too bad too, because Anaheim's been playing some good hockey lately. Did come back in that game against Detroit, did lose ultimately, but came into Boston, beat the Bruins. Played really tough against Detroit and had come in playing really good hockey coming out of the break. A little bit of news out of Florida, of course, Matthew Tkachuk injury. Of course, he was not able to finish that Four Nations Championship. And this is looking like another potentially long-term injury for Tkachuk. Looks like a groin injury. Of course, the coach coming out today and saying now he's going to play this year. He's not done for the season, but a lot of different reports out there. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but clearly not going to be playing for a little while. Be curious. He's such a big part of that Florida Panthers team. And, a lot of questions as to should he have been suited up for that last game. I think he played, 6 or 7 minutes in that matchup. Did he hurt the U.S.'s chances of winning that game by suiting up? Do you blame him for pushing to try to play? Um, Curious, very curious there. But listen, yeah, I'm not a Panthers fan at all, but you don't want to see guys get hurt. You want to see healthy players out there. So wishing Kachuk all the best. Hopefully he can get back out there soon. And last bit of news from the NHL, Ryan Hartman, of course, was suspended earlier on for a 10-game suspension, a hit on Ottawa's Tim Stützle. Commissioner Gary Bettman came out today and did reduce that from 10 games down to 8 games. So Hartman has a little bit of a reputation, was a very dirty hit, of course, but will be suspended now for 8 games. And real quick, and I'm going to let you guys go, but we'll take a quick dive here at the UMaine men, Black Bears. After the weekend, of course, they lose on the 21st, 3-2 overtime loss to UConn. In a game where UConn really kind of took it to them a bit. Maine did enough to get the point, but they are 19-6-5, still sitting number 4 in the pairwise nationally. So holding steady there. They do have a set of games coming up versus Vermont on the 28th, and again on the 1st. Both of those games at the Alphon, almost at the cross, at the Alphon at 7 p.m. And the Maine Nordiques right now 29-16-2-2, sitting third in that East Division. They did take a loss to Johnstown on the 22nd, 2-1 loss, so a tight game there. They are 6-4, however, over the past 10. And they have a couple games coming up at the Coliseum. So if you're looking to go check out some local hockey while the Mariners are out of town, they're playing on the 28th. 7:30 puck drop up there in Lewiston, and again Saturday at 7 p.m. again at the Coliseum in Lewiston. So everybody, that's what we have for you tonight. Hope you guys enjoy the hockey this week, and yeah, we'll see what the next few games bring us for the Mariners, and if they can keep the slim playoff hopes alive. We'll see what the Boston Bruins do here. We've got a couple weeks before the trade deadline. We'll see if they can muster some wins together. Could be a very short spring for our Boston teams here as we come into April. But yeah, time will tell. Time will tell. So enjoy the week, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening. I do appreciate that. If you do like what you're hearing here, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.